Yeah, welcome back to another episode of Issues of the Mind. I remain Papi Sam, your host. You can call me Samuel Adebowale. Today, we're looking at transgenerational trauma. We can call it intergenerational trauma. Now, trauma is unresolved pain, and that's a simple definition. Generational trauma refers to the emotional, psychological, and behavioral pain that is passed from one generation to another. So there is a pain that is unresolved. That is trauma. Now, when it is now unresolved and passed to generations, it is called transgenerational or generational trauma. And that is not a good one. Now, often through family patterns, silence, and learned behavior, rather than genetics alone, it is passed down through family pattern, genetics, or learned behavior, or even through silence. So that means that when you go through trauma, it is essential that you deal with your traumas, you overcome them, you win over them, so you don't pass it down, even in silence. Now, what we're doing is uncovering the silence that we've brought into our lives, and we need to also heal from them. Unresolved issues, we need to work on them. And please don't pass them on. This is your cue to start working on those suppressed pain that you have had over time. Some people say it's coping mechanism. It is good not to cope, but deal with it. So don't rest your hours on coping, but rest your hours on dealing with it and healing from it and moving on, so that your children will not inherit it, because it is transgenerational. It occurs when unhealed trauma from parent, grandparent, ancestors, such as abuse, war, poverty, colonization, and emotional neglect, is unconsciously transferred to the children from generation to generation. And the reason why we're having this conversation is simple, so that you can start to deal with it. And this is one podcast that longs after you being mentally healed and whole and sound. And we need you to work on it. So how does it start? Of course, it starts by suppressing your emotions. When you suppress it, you push it down. And this is common to the male gender. So my brothers, my uncles, my father, my boys, it is high time you begin to express your emotions and deal with it. There's nothing such as manner. It is strength when you choose to express your emotion, to cry, to release it, and then you ends there and you move on. It is strength when you choose to talk about your pain. It is strength when you choose to express that feeling you have, or tell someone how they have hurt you. It is strength when you choose to heal and face it. The cultures around you might not support this, but the cultures within you needs it. And I need you to really, really, really work on it, so that at the end of the day, it won't show up as anger issues. It won't show up as terminal illnesses. It won't deprive you of the long life you're supposed to live, so that you can indeed be set free from deep within your heart. Now, another way it starts is to develop survival patterns, around it. You don't have to do all of that. I've mentioned them earlier. So one of the things you should do is even teach your children to express that they are feeling the pain, the anger, and the emotion. There are different ways which you can talk about it, you can write about it, you can speak to a professional, but please don't keep it to yourself. Now, how it shows up in family: emotional unavailability, parents who don't know how to express affection. In one of the episodes we talked about that your parents don't know any better, because if they knew any better, they would have been better. When they are not emotionally available for their children, it shows for that means that parents who are not emotionally available for them. So you can see the cycle, the transgenerational cycle of the trauma. So if you feel, my parents are like this, they are like that, they didn't know any better. If they knew better, they would have better. That's why we don't push blames, but we seek for solutions. So don't blame your parent, don't blame your father, don't blame anybody around you, but seek for lasting solution. Verbal or emotional abuse, because that's how they were raised. Some people were raised in core of verbal abuse. They don't know any better. But now that it's your turn, you can break the circle, you can break the jinx and move on. unrealistic expectations, pressure to be perfect, to make the whole family proud. When you can live your life, can fulfill purpose, and make yourself proud. And it's really not their fault as well. Remember, people are who they were raised to be. People are who they have learned to be. People are who they have been cultured to be. So we're not going to push blame, but we're going to ensure that if you recognize these traits in you or someone around you, you can get help and they can improve. Now, fear and shame cycles. Family avoid talking about painful truths. In some cultures, they avoid talking about painful truths, to suppress it. But this is when we start expressing and talking about it and addressing it, about it constructively, not talk out of pushing blame or out of faulting people. Talk out of the desire to heal and to move on and to bond again. Parentification. Children taking adult roles emotionally and financially. So there are situations where the parents are incapacitated due to illness or other things, or they've even died early. So the children have had to grow up fast to take up financial responsibilities. So that is parentification. That doesn't mean that when you start having your children, they do the same. And you tell them, when I was your age, I was already making money. I was already good. Because it happened to you, because you are raised that way, it doesn't mean that your children or your grandchildren should be raised that way. And that trauma should not be passed on. So it's good to have clarity on these things so you know what exactly you are up against and what you need to deal with. Repeating toxic relationship patterns, marrying or befriending who mirrors the whole pattern. For example, probably your mom was a single mother, she had a boyfriend that got a pregnancy 21, and then the daughter goes up to the same pattern as well, and it goes on and on like that. Or the dad started abusing them substances early, say 15, and when your son too reaches that age, so the same thing, the same cycle, mirroring the same effect, the same breakdown, the same challenges, which we should deal with and we should work with. Now, self-reflection, journaling, prayer, being mindful to process your own emotion, mindfulness to process your own emotion. It is very essential that you reflect, you think about it, you note it, you're able to process your feelings and your emotions. And of course, you set healthy boundaries. If you have family members that are that way, and you're trying to raise your children not to be that way, you set boundaries. You let them know, when you come to my space, to my house, you don't say certain things to my children. There are boundaries to be set. You educate them as well, so they themselves can learn. Say no to toxic cycles and yes to emotional safety and truth. Learn to nurture yourself in ways that your caregivers couldn't. There's nothing you cannot learn. There's nothing you cannot change about yourself. But you need to open your heart and embrace therapy and embrace change. A day at a time, a breath at a time. And over time, you'll see the changes. In fact, the people around you will see the changes in you, and you would have able to tell them with your change, with your new character, tell them that they have your permission and they also can change as well. Because in you changing, in you becoming better, is also giving others the permission to also take the same step and also improve on themselves. Now, finally, it is essential to note these patterns, this transgenerational trauma and transgenerational pain, and deal with it. We're not going to be coping. We're going to deal with it. We're going to heal from it, and we're going to move on. Remember, healing is a journey. And if you refuse to heal, hurt people hurt people. I'll say that again. Have you heard that phrase? Hurt people hurt people. That means that you have the ability to bleed on other people if you refuse to heal. So heal now, so you won't bleed on your children and your children's children. Till I come here again, see you around. Remember, there is no health without mental health.